Many people have seen photographs of lions and lionesses. They're mythical and magical to behold, but you don't want to get too close. That's why you're grateful for the photographers who take the time to go to these lands and capture their images for you. George wanted to create a documentary and needed pictures of lions. He encountered one that wasn't necessarily aggressive, but seemed agitated nonetheless. He realized that it needed help, and he followed the animal. What could have happened to shock him to his core? You must keep reading to find out what this poor lion required. George was shocked to see a lion in the distance. Its belly was swollen, so he called the veterinarian in the area. In fact, she had never seen something like that and asked for an ultrasound. What it revealed caused her to call the police. Once the veterinarian called the police, they said they'd be there as soon as they could. This lion needed more help than she could give. In fact, it required surgery because something strange was going on in its stomach. Was it a life or death situation? When the police arrived, they assisted in sedating the almost lifeless lion. However, they also turned to the photographer George, telling him he had to go with them. Had he done something wrong and didn't realize it? George answered their questions, saying that he'd been a ranger and photographer for many years. He keeps the animals safe from harm and had noticed poachers in the area recently. While he was explaining himself, he heard the vet exclaim that she couldn't believe it. It was hard for George and the rangers to keep the animals safe. There wasn't enough manpower, and the savannah put them in constant danger. In fact, that combination was rough for everyone who was involved in the mess. The employer of the sanctuary put more pressure on these rangers all the time. They couldn't handle it all themselves. That caused outsiders to notice and take advantage of the situation. In fact, everything was more dangerous now. George traveled his usual route that day and happened to see something large in the distance. Initially, he believed he was seeing things because he was so overworked. However, his mouth fell open when he got closer. What he saw scared him and caused him to jump. He didn't want to approach it, but realized this animal needed help. It was an exceptionally large lion, the alpha male of the pack. However, his stomach was swollen, and he required medical attention. George began to approach this lion, but he was scared. Overall, his love for animals made him get going. He needed to know what was happening, and he couldn't let that lion go away. He decided he needed to call other rangers to the show. George spoke with his superior, and he confirmed that something needed to be done immediately. They must move the animal, keep it safe, and figure out why its belly was so large. The ranger had to act quickly here. More rangers soon arrived on site, and George approached the lion carefully. These are proud animals, so George wasn't sure how it might react. Then the lion turned, and George worried that he was going to be attacked in just a minute. The other rangers yelled for George to move back, and he stopped. They needed another solution. Finally, they chose to have someone get in touch with the local veterinarian. The one who made the call was in total shock after hanging up the phone. The veterinarian told the rangers to get out of the lion's immediate area, or he would attack them. Then, she asked them to do one more thing: sedate the lion so that they could treat him and get a closer look at his issue. George asked the other rangers to help him secure the area so that the vet could get close and be safe. In fact, he did the sedation himself. He was the one who located the poor creature and wanted things to go smoothly throughout the situation. Luck was on their side at that time. The lion was sedated very quickly and really didn't fight it much. In fact, they wondered if he wanted the help because he never showed signs of resistance or attacked any of the team. Clearly, the rangers could see the bulge, so George called the vet to report their findings. When the vet learned where it was, she got upset. Since it was in the stomach, it probably couldn't get into the body. But what could it actually be? The lion had to have swallowed something it shouldn't have, so it needed surgery to survive. It took roughly 3 hours, and the veterinarian was now wondering if this lion's life was worth all the effort. The rangers on site were struggling while they waited. They worried that the sedative might wear off, and it finally did. The lion didn't want to stay there anymore because it seemed like they weren't going to help. In fact, the rangers were dumbfounded. Once the veterinarian got there, the lion was in the same place as before. However, it was clear that the animal was getting fed up with it all and wanted to leave. This lion was very aggressive and roaring its displeasure at regular intervals. The rangers didn't want to move the jeeps they used to keep the lion in place. However, the animal now targeted those who were in the vehicles. Some of the helpers already had close calls, and their fear was at an all-time high. Many rangers drove away to avoid getting hurt, so the vet had to act fast now that she was there. Still, sedation had risks involved. The lion might not wake up again, but the doctor knew she had to do something because the animal was trying to attack. Tranquilizers were the only option. The vet waited until the lion turned its head in a new direction. Then, she approached it and gave it a sedative, injecting it into his lower body. Now, they just had to wait for it to fall asleep again. During the next few minutes, the lion slowed down more. That's when the vet decided to give it a few more sedative injections. That might have seemed like a lot, but it was a very large animal, so this was a necessary step. Finally, the lion was asleep. Some rangers fell to the ground in complete exhaustion because their heart rates were slowing down again. They had faced death many times and were relieved it was over, at least for a while. The vet could now turn her attention to the bulge in the lion's stomach, which was the reason she was here. She took out a surgical kit from the Jeep and set it up. It was time to go to work after getting an ultrasound and figuring out the problem. The veterinarian confirmed her suspicions by feeling on the lion's stomach to determine that's where the object was stuck. It was something this creature had swallowed, which the digestive system couldn't break down. There was only one thing to do. At that point, the only thing she could do was cut the lion open carefully to remove the object. However, surgery is risky, regardless of the species. Plus, it was done in the savannah with no access to sterilizing products. It was the only option, though. With great precision and care, the veterinarian cut the lion along its bulge. Once she got through the esophagus, muscle and skin, everything was revealed to those who stuck around. However, no one expected what they saw. The vet withdrew a piece of meat that the lion hadn't digested properly. This caused the swelling, but it was because of something inside it that glowed. It realized it was a microchip, and now everything was falling into place. George had noticed poachers carrying devices, confiscating the ones he found. He ran to the truck to give the police officers what he had. Immediately, they recognized it because they'd encountered the same issue. It was a tracking device. Now that the microchip was gone, the vet started to stitch the lion up. While she did this, she checked to ensure that nothing else was wrong. However, he seemed pretty healthy, and she believed he would get better quickly. The veterinarian thanked the rangers for the help they offered. They kept the lion safe until she could arrive. Finally, she headed back to the city to help other patients, but she did one more thing to ensure that the lion was healthy. She asked George to keep her informed about the lion's movements, and he promised to watch over the creature for her. Luckily, the police caught the poachers and arrested everyone in the organization. Now, the animals were safe.